to week 3
Yay.
already. Can you believe? It's just flying by. Let's look at what we're going to be working on this week. So this week we have our writing journal. So Monday, write a story about what's behind the fence using your picture clues. Okay. Tuesday, write a story about your favorite hobby or interest. So a hobby, what is a hobby?
Something you enjoy doing.
Okay, so something that you enjoy doing or something that you're interested in, okay? And then, of course, Wednesday's a free write day, so you get to pick what you write about. And Thursday, imagine you are an animal searching for shelter during a storm. Write a story describing your experience. So if you're describing it, be sure you use your sensory details and give us a feeling like we're there and we can see it happening in our minds. And then on Friday, it's Fiction Friday.
Yay.
So write a fictional story, so a make-believe story, where the main character has a conflict with an animal. So a problem with an animal.
I like that.
I hope you enjoy your journals this week. Make sure that you're writing about 10 sentences for each one. Check your capitalization of the beginning of sentences and your proper nouns.
For sure.
And be sure that you are putting periods at the end of each complete thought.
Yes. And this week we're going to look at our agenda. And we have gotten really used to these agendas because we've been using them since the very beginning of school. So we have Monday, you're watching the teacher video, writing journal. We're going to preview a poem today called Animal Wisdom. And it's a short poem, but it's very good. We're going to begin writing a personal narrative. We're going to complete our Check Your Understanding. We're going to look at 4 types of sentences today. And then we're going to start our novel. We are starting a new novel this week, Where the Red Fern Grows. And some of you have probably heard of that novel, or maybe you've watched the movie at some point. Don't spoil it for anyone else, and just listen to the story because it's really, really good. And we're going to complete our question of the day. And you'll notice the question of the day is at the end now, because we want to make sure that we're ticking all of these boxes and we're getting all of our work done. And so you can see we've got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Guys, make sure you go through each of these every single day so that you know what we're doing and you're staying on track, especially since we're starting a novel this week.
Yes.
Last time we read a novel, some of us didn't stay up with Journey to Joburg, and that was a big problem. So make sure you are listening to those chapters each day for Where the Red Fern Grows. And our weekly objectives, we are going to look at personification and imagery in poetry. We are going to compare 2 poems, the themes of 2 poems. We're going to conduct research about wolves. That's going to be really cool.
Wolves. That
I
sounds
love
fun.
the research activities.
I love
They're
it
so
too.
fun.
They're fun. The
They're
kids
really
are loving
fun. We're going to discuss poetry and create a poster depicting the imagery in the poems. So very cool. You get to be creative. We're going to discuss with a partner the features of the poems using the key term theme. We're going to read and analyze a realistic fiction novel. And we're going to identify a variety of sentences. Okay? So that is a lot of stuff going on this week, but you're going to do great with it.
All right, so let's look at our making inferences. This is one of my favorite things that we do. So the first thing that I always do when I'm going to infer is I look at the facts that I can find out about this image, this photograph. And so I notice that there's a boy, he's holding a lantern and an axe, and there are 2 dogs. So I'm going to use those facts to make an inference, and I infer that this little boy is going hunting because he's out at night with hunting dogs. So that's my inference. The next one, I see an animal, it looks like a wolf. He's holding what looks to be a watermelon in his mouth. There are trees and there's grass. So I infer that this wolf is about to eat the watermelon because he's holding it in his mouth. The next one, I see what looks to be water, a person who is wearing a jacket with a hood, and trees that are orange and a little bit of green. So I infer that it's cold outside because the boy is wearing a jacket, or the person, we don't know if it's a boy or a girl. And this, I think, is one of the cutest little
I
photographs.
love this one.
It looks like there's a bunny laying down. Looks like I see a sidewalk, I see grass. The bunny is wearing some sort of harness, and there is a leash attached to the harness. So I infer that this bunny is being taken for a walk by its owner and would prefer to just lay on the ground, because I see the leash and I see the harness and the bunny is laying down. So, adorable.
That's too
That
cute.
is
When you
cute.
are making an inference, whether it is about a photograph or it is about your text, first of all, you need to look for the facts. Then you need to use those facts to help you make your inference. Oh, there's another one.
So there's
Oh,
one more.
look
I like
at
this
that.
one too.
So I see a little girl in a dress. I see bubbles. Looks like there's a house in the background. There's a butterfly. So I infer that this little girl is at a photo shoot,
Mhm.
because it looks like they're trying to distract her with bubbles so that she'll look at the camera.
That's what I inferred too. All right, so our story of the week is a little different this week because we don't have an actual story. We're actually going to have a poem that we're going to start with, and then we have another poem that we're going to read, and we're going to compare and contrast those two poems. So our essential question is, what can you learn by seeing the world through an animal's eyes? We've looked at Pax and the world through Pax's eyes. We've done the story Zoo, and we've looked at creatures that saw the world in a similar way as humans. And we have looked at the story we just did,
The story we're doing this week.
Animal spies.
Animal Spies. And we've been able to see the world through a lot of different animals this week. And now we're going to read two poems, and we're going to see the world through different animals. So a quick start. It says, people and animals constantly interact with each other. Can you think of a time when you had an interaction in which an animal showed its intelligence? Think about why the interaction left an impression on you. So you're thinking about a time that an animal showed you how smart it was. So Miss Cook, did you have a time when an animal showed you how smart it was?
I have little Seymour, and I know for a fact that he knows who his owner is, because he will come to me and relax. Anybody else, he just doesn't relax the same way. He will get in my face, he won't get in other people's faces. He is able to use his senses to know that I am his person, and I just think it's a cool
That is
thing.
a cool
That
thing.
is neat.
So think about a time when you've had an animal maybe that's shown intelligence to you. Okay? Monday, you're going to do your preview and your predict and your purpose and your prior knowledge. You're going to do your 4 Ps. So you need to click on the video and you need to watch the video about previewing the text. On Tuesday, you'll read the story. So be sure that every day that you're clicking to hear about those stories, because we're all reading those to you and analyzing the text and helping you to get deeper in those stories. Okay, so this week our genre is poetry. Many poems use figurative language, including personification. So what is personification?
Personification is when an author gives an animal or a non-human object human characteristics.
And I remember that because of the word person. It kind of clicks for me to think, okay, so I'm making an object something that acts like a human. Okay? It often includes imagery that appeals to the 5 senses, so things that you can see, feel, touch, taste, and hear. And it expresses a theme or a big idea message about life. Okay, so our author is Nancy Wood. Our author
Nancy Wood.
is Nancy Wood, I was right. And it says, people and animals are in constant interaction with each other. It is not surprising then that animals have long been a favorite focus of poets and storytellers such as Nancy Wood. In particular, Native American literature and culture express a strong reverence for animals and the land air, and water they share with us. Nancy Wood was a poet, novelist, and photographer who lived in Colorado and New Mexico, where she was inspired by Native American culture and the wilderness. So our first poem is going to be about the wilderness. And it's going to, well, I'm not going to tell you too much. I don't want to give it all away.
Yes.
And then that poem is called Animal Wisdom. And then we're going to read another poem. And this author is Mary Tallmountain. I like that name.
Yes.
She was born in a small village along the Yukon River in Alaska. After her Athabascan mother became seriously ill, Tallmountain was adopted and taken away from her village. Living far from her family and home, Tallmountain felt like an outsider. Many of her poems and stories reflect her struggles to reconnect with nature and her lost home. Her writing is highly praised as part of the renaissance of Native American literature during the last few decades of the 20th century. And her poem that we're going to read is called The Last Wolf. Ooh. They sound really, really good. I can't wait for you to get to hear these two very awesome poems.
And so when we look at these poems, like Ms. Shuttlesworth said, we're going to talk about personification and imagery a lot. And so we really need to figure out what personification and imagery are so we know what to look for when we're reading our poems. And so it says figurative language is language that has meaning beyond the literal meaning of the words. So you're going to have to dig a little bit deeper because there's another layer there. Personification, one type of figurative language, uses words to describe an object or animal as if it has human characteristics. So authors might use personification to emphasize an idea or create an emotional effect. For example, in our poem Animal Wisdom, a turtle is described as if it were human, talking the way that a person would talk. And so as you read Animal Wisdom, you're going to start asking yourself questions like, why did the author decide to have this turtle speak like a person? What is this turtle adding to the conversation or to the poem that gets us thinking? Because a lot of the times poetry, you have to read between the lines because there's a lot more there than what's just written. And the author wants you to ask those tough questions like, why is she having this animal speak? What does this mean? And so you're going to really want to pay close attention, even though it's a short poem. There's a lot there. And so it says, turtle crawled up on land. He said, what's missing is the ability to find contentment in a slow-paced life. And so the author uses personification to express an idea of what might be missing from the world. And so it's going to be interesting to have you look at each animal to see what their own opinions are. And then we have imagery. And imagery is the use of words and phrases in a way that allows readers to experience or imagine how something looks, feels, sounds, smells, and tastes. To find imagery in writing, ask yourself, what details help me experience what the author's describing? So what sensory language helps me do that, helps me see or smell or feel this environment? In The Last Wolf, the author uses imagery to describe a wolf entering the city. And it's a really neat poem. And you're really going to want to pay attention to how the author describes the setting and what the wolf feels and sees as they enter the city. And so our little piece says, and I heard his baying echoes down the steep, smashed warrens of Montgomery Street and past the few ruby-crowned high-rises left standing. So the sensory details in these lines help the reader imagine the sounds of the wolf and the view of what it sees. And also, it helps us understand that maybe something has happened here because it says high-rises left standing. So that implies that some have fallen down. Okay, so remember, we're reading between those lines. And then we have paraphrasing. And this is restating the text in your own words, and it can help you monitor your own comprehension. And it can ensure that you understand what you're reading. So a paraphrase is written in simpler language and is the same length as the original text. And an accurate paraphrase must keep a logical order and meaning of the original text. So it's kind of, if you tell us what the poem is about, it needs to be about the same length and it needs to follow the same order that the poem went. You can't bounce around. Okay, you've got to keep it kind of linear. So the chart shows a paraphrase section of The Last Wolf. And you are going to go to BrainPop, and there's the username and the password down there at the bottom of that slide. And this says, he laid his long gray muzzle on the spare white spread, and his eyes burned yellow, his small dotted eyebrows quivered. So the wolf, he's laying his head on the bed and he's staring with a very intense emotion at whoever is in this room with him. And so we take a look at all of those details and we paraphrase it in our own words. So we take it, we make what the wolf did and we put it in a short, simple sentence. And so be sure that when you paraphrase your paraphrase accurately reflects the meaning of the text. But avoid using the exact words. You don't want to use word for word examples because we want to know what you think. We want to hear your words, not the author's words. And even the same sentence structure or the text that you're paraphrasing. If you do include the exact words, make sure you put quotes around it so that we know that you're borrowing words, okay? And then we're going to determine theme. And theme is the big idea of a text, okay? So a theme is the author's message or lesson to the reader. A story or poem can have more than one theme, okay? They can have more than one thing going on. And as you read, ask yourself these questions. What did the characters learn? How did the characters grow or change? And why did the characters act the way they did? And as you compare theme, you're going to read and focus on discovering themes or messages about life or human nature, or and that both poems share. What ideas are communicated by each poem, and which ideas do they have in common? So as we compare the theme in these poems, we're really looking for what they have in common and what idea that they're trying to get across. And so we have our Animal Wisdom and The Last Wolf. They're poems about animals, nature, and human beings. Although the poems share similar topics, they express different themes. A poem's theme is its big picture idea or its message about life or human nature. When you ask what a poem means, you're asking about theme. Okay? And so poets don't generally state the theme directly. Remember, we're reading between the lines. So it's up to you to make inferences about the theme based on details in the poem. And as you review the poem for details that hint at the theme, you need to think about these three things. Key statements that the speaker or the characters make, so important things that they say, significant events that occur in the poem, or memorable images that describe the characters or the setting. So you're looking for those three things when you're looking at theme. And then we're going to go to this table. Sorry. So this table, and we're going to write down the key statements in Animal Wisdom and The Last Wolf, any significant events in either one, memorable images, we're going to list those in both Animal Wisdom and The Last Wolf, and then we are going to infer, we're going to take all the things that we know, and we are going to make an inference about the theme. So what is the theme of Animal Wisdom? What is the theme of The Last Wolf? And you are going to answer this in a complete sentence. So you're not just going to say good versus evil.
Right.
You're going to say the theme of Animal Wisdom is
Whatever the theme is.
whatever you've inferred based on the key statements, the events, and the memorable images. But make sure you write a complete sentence about that one, okay? That way you're really putting in all that effort and you're really, really identifying and analyzing those poems.
So we're going to look at our grammar for this week. We're going to be talking about 4 types of sentences. This should be familiar to you. It should be kind of a review, But we want you, as you're writing, to vary up the types of sentences that you use. If you use statements the entire time, it's not going to be as interesting or exciting as if you add in some commands or some questions or some exclamations. So we're going to talk about these 4 types of sentences. The first is a declarative sentence. A declarative sentence is the one you're most familiar with. It simply makes a statement and it ends in a period. I like dogs. It's a statement. An interrogative sentence is a question and it ends in a question mark. So, what is your favorite animal? Is an interrogative sentence. An exclamatory sentence makes an exclamation or a bold statement and it ends in an exclamation point. I love dogs. Same sentence as before, but it's said in a way that makes an exclamation or a bold statement, and it would end with an exclamation point. Let your reader know that they're excited or you're excited about something. An imperative sentence gives a command. I think imperative sentences are my favorite types of sentences. Put your shoes on. Go take a bath. Do your homework. I feel like I say these things
I
very,
definitely
very
use-
often.
I definitely use imperative a lot.
And an imperative sentence can actually end in a period or an exclamation point, depending on how you say it. Maybe the first time I say, put your shoes on, it would end in a period. The 17th time I have to tell someone to put your shoes on, it would probably end in 2 or 3 exclamation
It would
points.
go from put your shoes on to put your shoes on.
Yes. So here are some examples of these types of sentences. So a declarative, I like hot dogs. My name is Mrs. Cook and I teach reading. Those are statements. Interrogative, can you hand me that cookie please? And has Aaron finished his book? Those are questions. Interrogative. Exclamatory, Christmas is amazing!
Woo.
I don't want this day to end. Probably sit down, Christmas. Maybe not today. And then imperative, put your homework on my desk. After you eat, wash your face. Okay, so those commands are imperative sentences. So let's practice together. Can you help me? What kind of sentence is that?
It's a question. It ends with a
with
question mark. Interrogative.
Yes, that's an interrogative sentence. She went to the mall yesterday.
It ends with a
period.
period. So
And
I'm
it's not-
thinking that's just declaring what you're doing.
Yeah, just a
Declarative.
declarative sentence. Don't sit there.
Ah, you're telling somebody it's a command.
So
that means
even
it's
though
a-
it has that
Yep,
exclamation
but it's a
point,
command, so it's
a-
imperative.
it is a imperative. Be kind to your sister.
I can hear a parent
Saying
telling
that.
that to a kid.
Also an
That would be
imperative.
a command. Imperative.
I'm going to the fair tonight.
It's
Declarative.
declarative. You're just telling me.
Turn to page 34.
Command.
Yeah.
That's imperative.
Mhm. And that's it. So as you practice these this week, remember, not only do we want you to do well on your practices and your quizzes, but we want to see you use those in your journals
Yep.
and in your stories this
Yep.
week.
All right. So as Miss Norman said, we're going to be reading Where the Red Fern Grows, and we are so excited about this novel. I suppose there's a time in practically every young boy's life when he's affected by that wonderful disease of puppy love.
And
And that
guys,
was the character in the
That
story.
sets the stage for
Oh.
the whole beautiful story.
If you are a dog lover, this is a good story for you. I happen to be a dog person. You know I have 2 dogs, Jack and Babe, and they are my babies. And anytime there's a story that has to do with animals, I love reading about them. And I love to think about I like to think about the world through the eyes of the animals in the story. So when we read Where the Red Fern Grows this next couple of weeks, be thinking about what the animals might be thinking in the story, as well as the people. Where the Red Fern Grows is the story of a boy's love for his 2 hunting dogs. Hey, I think that goes back to that imprinting picture.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
It's also about life in the rural Ozark Mountains in the early part of this century, about family, love, and faith. This story is told by Billy Coleman, now an adult. On the way home from work, Billy breaks up a savage dog fight. He rescues the old red-bone hound the other dogs were attacking. The dog makes Billy remember his childhood. The next night, after letting the red-bone hound go free, Billy thinks about the 2 red hunting dogs he has as a child. He remembers how much they meant to him. So this is going to be an adult in the story. He's telling the story as a memory of something that happens in his childhood. And every day we're going to be giving you different chapters to listen to. It is very important, as Mrs. Norman already said, to keep up with those chapters, because not only are you going to be listening this time, but there's going to be little quizzes throughout.
Mhm.
And if you get to a quiz and you haven't been listening, you're going to have a tough time because you're not going to know what to do. And if your grade is really bad, we're going to know you haven't been listening to the story.
Mhm.
And it's a good one. You're going to want to hear this story.
Yes.
Yes. And so this week we're also going to have a writing lesson, and it kind of goes along with Where the Red Fern Grows. Because Where the Red Fern Grows is about an adult person thinking back on something that happened in their childhood, and it's a narrative. It's a personal narrative. And so you are going to write your own personal narrative this week. And you're going to choose a moment in your life that impacted you or that had a big influence on you. Something that happened that changed your life for the better, or maybe it was something that was sad that happened. But it's going to be a big moment in your life.
So a moment. That means that you're not writing about your whole life and everything that's ever happened, correct?
Exactly.
It's one moment. So
Mhm.
something that happened to you, one thing that you're expanding on, like in our story, his one thing he's
Mhm.
going to expand on has to do with those dogs.
Mhm.
Okay? We're not going to write about everything that's ever happened in our lives, and let me tell you, everything. One moment.
One moment.
And we really want to focus in on that and give it the attention it
Mhm.
deserves. And we don't want to distract.
So, for example, I might want to write about something that happened to me when I was young, and we went to a theme park and I rode a roller coaster. I'm not going to tell you about that whole trip that I went on. I'm not even going to tell you about all the rides I went on. I'm going to focus on the very first roller coaster I ever rode, and I'm going to make sure that that's my focus, and I'm going to tell you about that moment and how it impacted me. I'm not going to tell you all the details from my whole trip, that one little slice.
Mm-hmm. And so you need to make sure that this is at least 5 paragraphs. It can be more, but at least 5. Write about it in the first person. So you're going to use those I, me, my pronouns. Give lots of description. Use those sensory details. Like, we need to know what it looked like, what it sounded like, maybe if it was food at an amusement park, what it smelled like.
How it made you feel.
Okay, use all those sensory description
So we
words.
should be reading it, and like it should make us feel like
We're there.
it was there and it happened to us. When we read it, we should be like, whoa, I feel like that just happened to me.
Mm-hmm. And we're also going to use a variety of sentences. And so that goes back to our grammar lesson. All the different types of sentences. Make sure you have lots of different types of sentences in your narrative.
And with that, you'll be finished for the week. And so
Yay.
remember, you can go back and watch this video as many times as you need to help you with your stories. Make sure that you watch all of the videos about your stories of the week this week. So the preview and the analyze, all of those. And make sure that you listen to Where the Red Fern Grows, because it's so good.
And if you have any questions or problems, always send us an email and we will get back to you when we have a chance. We always do it as soon as we get a chance. It might not be right that minute because we might be teaching in-class students, but as soon as we can, we always try to get back to you.
All right.
All right.
Have a great week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.